Concessions are completely different from commissions and compensation, of course. So definitely pop on a Stellar town hall that they have. I know they got a bunch of them coming up. They have a static video on Stellar now. So go on there, take a look at it. It's a 5 or 6 minute video, but it gives you a really great explanation of what the concessions are and what you cannot do with them. Just as an added reminder, the commission field at Stellar will be removed on August 6th. And then of course, all the changes take place on August 17th. Want to touch base one more time on training, jump on Stellar. And then next week, if you go to floridarealtors.org, Joanna Watkins, who's the chief legal counsel for Florida Realtors, she is doing a Zoom, I believe on Tuesday next week. So if I were you, I'd get on there. That way you can hear it from, the legal counsel of Florida Realtors, exactly what's going on, how she interprets the buyer brokerage agreement. I'm sure it'll be a great discussion, so definitely pop into that. That's more or less what I have for you as far as the broker update this week. We're going to dive into some questions in a little bit here, but before I do that, I wanted to bring in our special guest, Bernardo Piccolo with Marvel Insurance. He's going to give us a kind of a breakdown on what's going on in the insurance industry. As you probably already know, Bernardo is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to not only real estate, but also the insurance industry. So, Bernardo, welcome. Thanks for coming in and joining us.
Thanks for having me. Of course. It's nice to be here and actually say something positive about insurance.
Yeah.
So for everyone out there that is still thinking that things are getting worse and worse, there is light on the end of the tunnel. We started seeing premiums come down a little bit.
No way.
Most of all, we're seeing them flatline.
Okay.
So we're starting to get renewals for 2024 to 2025 homeowners coming in roughly where they were last year, some of them even less.
That's good news.
So that's good news. Hopefully they'll keep happening.
Yeah.
We're also getting more companies opening up new zip codes, so we're getting other than Citizens, new places to write, better premiums, better coverage.
Great.
So hopefully they'll start spreading through the industry.
Okay.
And we can get some more.
Sorry, I'm late to the party, guys.
Yeah, everybody, Tina's here, brought her in. So with integrity title. Keep going.
So that's the good news part of it, right?
How is that going to affect the condo industry? Is that gonna help? Because I know we're having stagnate with condo sales right now. Kind of with insurance.
Yeah, the premiums that I'm seeing started to level are more on the personal level, meaning like you purchase a policy, I purchase a policy, not necessarily the associations. Master policy, which I think is where the biggest problem is.
Okay.
But usually, one positive thing will lead to another, and then hopefully that's going to change as well. I don't see that happening overnight though.
Sure.
Yeah. So at least we're seeing some kind of relief
Yeah.
from one side to another.
Okay.
Condo insurance is a problem now, not just from an association standpoint. Homeowners are having a hard time getting them.
Okay.
When you do get them, they're at least 2 or 3 times more than what we were used to.
Understood.
With the same level of coverage, which is kind of unfair, but it's going to get better. At least it's not getting worse. I guess that's what I wanted to kind of highlight. Right on the beginning of what we're talking about.
So Citizens is still around, but there's new companies that are coming in and opening up.
Right.
We're seeing a lot more companies come in.
Different companies.
Yes, different companies that I haven't seen before.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So like Tower Hill has been around for a really long time, but I haven't seen a policy from Tower Hill for probably a couple of years. We wrote 3 or 4 in the last 2-3 weeks.
Nice.
Okay.
One of them was new construction, so that's kind of expected, but existing homes are starting to have markets other than Citizens.
Okay.
Citizens premiums did go up quite a bit too. So now we're starting to see where, the difference in price from Citizens to another company is not so drastic.
Right.
And usually you get a little bit more perks when you go with let's say Universal or Tower Hill or any of the big ones.
Sure.
So that's kind of where we're at there.
Okay.
Now, Citizens now has that requirement for flood insurance.
Yeah,
Which I think is
yeah.
one of the things.
They're phasing that in, right?
They're phasing that in, sort of, right? If you're in the flood zone, if you're in a place where it does require flood insurance normally.
Yeah.
If you have a mortgage or not, that's irrelevant. Let's say it was a requirement,
Mhm.
if you did have a mortgage. You have to get it in order to go to Citizens. Now, the good news on that is if you had a homeowner's policy, let's say $300,000 for the replacement of the home.
Sure.
And let's say you had $150,000 in contents, right? Citizens was enforcing the requirement of you getting flood insurance for the house with coverage for the home and coverage for the contents. Supposedly, now this is from April, they just passed a rule now that would allow us to get flood insurance for the property only, no contents.
Okay.
So that should help a little bit. That should drop probably a premium for an average flood premium now on a new policy is probably on the $3,500 range.
Okay.
So hopefully we can kind of get that down to under $3,000 by dropping the type of coverage. I'm not saying that should be dropped, but if you want to save some money, that's one way to do it.
Right.
Other than that, starting on January 1st of 24, anything that is 600,000 or higher dwelling amount has to carry flood. Starting January 1st of 2025, 500,000 and up, and then 400,000 and up in 26, and then 27, everyone will need to carry flood if they are with Citizens, with the exception of condos. So when they started, condos were applying this rule to condos as well, which, if you're on the 11th floor of a building that is on the floodplain, the water
Doesn't
gets
make sense.
it doesn't make any sense at all. So HO6s, which are the condo policies, that does not apply to that.
Okay.
So that's good news there. As far as requirements, the whole 4-point, my suggestion is if anything is older, if a home is older than 20 years, it's a good idea to go ahead and get it.
Right.
You can probably get away with not having a 4-point, depending on the company, all the way up to 25 years of age. However, that's gonna limit, the market. So anything over 20, I would say get a 4-point, that's gonna be a good way to go.
Okay.
The requirement for life expectancy on the roof used to be 3 years. Now it's up to 5 years. So the way it works is, if you have a shingle roof, you can go all the way to 25 years of life. But during that 25 years of life, you have to have 5 years of life expectancy at all times. So if you have someone that is, buying a house that is, let's say, has a 17-year-old roof, but it's a low quality. Normally they'll think, well, 20 years or 25, I got 8 years to go. I mean, that's not really how it works.
Yeah.
So if you get a 4-point and the 4-point states that there's 5 years of life left on the roof,
You're good.
you only have 1 year.
Okay.
Because basically what's gonna happen is you start the policy with 5 years of life, and renew, you now have 40 years of life.
You have to get a,
So you're gonna
I
have.
get a
to
new
keep it
one? And they say that it's still 5 years, is that?
Possible,
Okay.
but
Otherwise, you
not
have to get a
something
new
you
one.
wanna rely on.
No.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's usually how we go, you have the 5 years, now you got 4, we get a new inspection. We get an exception or it flies, great.
Mhm.
But it's nice to know that if that doesn't work, a new roof will be needed. And then the buyer or the owner can start budgeting for it.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So I guess the highlight here is, it used to be 3, there's a lot of people who think it's still 3 years. Now it's up to 5, so if you don't have 5 years of life on it, it's
You
gonna
better
be
start.
really hard to
Yeah.
get insurance.
start looking, start saving.
Start saving some money.
Start prepping for a new
So-
roof.
And then we get a lot of calls, that relate to occupancy, meaning I'm buying a house to live in, that's pretty current, right? It's a homeowner's policy, you're gonna live there,
Yeah.
right? And usually, all it means is it's your primary home, you're there 11 months out of the year, 12 months, whatever it is. When you start going into seasonal vacation homes and so on, it gets really tricky. One of the questions we get a lot nowadays is, I'm buying an Airbnb, I need insurance.
Mhm.
Okay, well, an Airbnb is not seasonal, an Airbnb is not primary,
Right.
it's not a rental from an insurance standpoint, a rental would be a full-time rental.
Full yearly rental.
So citizens, for example, will not write a policy for a 7-day rental, which would be an Airbnb or a 3-day rental, depending on what they're doing. So we have to get really
Creative.
to find that coverage, and it's usually pretty expensive.
Okay.
So something to keep in mind, when budgeting for
Yeah,
the
if you're,
purchase of that type.
right.
The other thing we're running into quite a bit lately is, people are buying homes, and running businesses out of their homes. Like working from home is one thing, opening a eBay store that people are walking in there, 20 times a day is a whole different animal.
Right.
We have a lot of people close to downtown
Mhm.
because their home is right next to a commercial property, so they think that they can get away with it. And a lot of people do get away with it from a county or city standpoint, but then when it comes to the insurance, it's a very different risk. And then, a lot of people are getting in trouble with their mortgage companies because they're running a business out of the house and they're getting non-renewed or canceled by their insurance companies. And then they can't get really commercial insurance because it's not a commercial
Yeah, 'cause it's not
property, so
commercial.
it's like a gray area where, it's just something to keep in mind. It's kind of rare, but it's happening more.
Good to know.
Yeah, but that's pretty much it. I mean, there is, a lot of people are running into, forced place insurance, now, which is basically, either your roof wasn't good enough to get regular insurance and they lapsed.
Okay.
So now the lender is forced place in insurance, or it got so expensive that forced place became cheaper than,
Yes.
which is mind-boggling to say that.
Yeah.
But we're running into that quite often. Forced place insurance can be used as proof of prior insurance
Okay.
in order to get a new policy with most companies. That used to be not the case before. They used to look at it and say, no, forced place was an insurance you bought, the bank bought it. So
Yeah.
it's not your, so now they're kind of allowing that to be proof of prior, which would basically save us from having a surcharge on the new policy. And then depending on which company we go with, sometimes there's a 30-day waiting period
Mhm.
for coverage to kick in. Especially at this time of the year, 30 days is a lot.
Yeah,
when there's, storms.
Storms thing,
kind of
yeah.
all over the
Yes.
place. But I mean, that's kind of just
Yeah.
a refresher on some of the.
Let me ask, what, when it comes to, I know as realtors, we all deal with inspection issues and things along those lines. Are you seeing any companies out there that would allow a buyer if the 4-point says it needs a new roof? Seller doesn't want to do it, buyer would do it, but they're not gonna do it till they own it.
Right.
Is there any insurance companies out there that are allowing to get it done within 30 days after closing or anything along those
There
lines?
used to be a lot more than there is today.
Mhm.
It's one of those things that we're gonna shoot for. If it flies, great, but it's not something that I would rely on
Rely on it.
100%.
Okay.
Normally, when they do allow it, they're gonna require for the roof to be not just a bid on it, but they want a signed contract.
With a roofer,
Sometimes with a deposit,
okay,
and sometimes they want to see proof that the deposit actually cleared the buyer's account.
And I'm
So-
gonna say
Yeah,
something
please.
about that really quick.
Yeah.
Okay, so if your buyer's looking at doing a roof after closing and they've signed a contract with a roofer, that roofer's gonna file a notice of commencement against the property. You can't close without clear title, and that notice of commencement is gonna be a cloud on title.
Oh, and technically, you shouldn't have a notice of commencement.
Then,
with a
right.
Buyer that doesn't own the house.
Correct,
Right.
correct. So there's gonna be probably a lot that has to happen. If a buyer's gonna get a roof after closing, it's definitely something that title is gonna need to know, and everybody will have to try to work together to figure that out.
gotcha,
Yeah, and also it needs to be addressed with the roofer
right,
that they don't own the house yet, so
Right,
the notice of missing
Right.
shouldn't be done.
Shouldn't
shouldn't be filed
Until
until
after
after,
closing,
right? You would hope that maybe the deposit with the roofer is enough to
Normally it is.
get them there.
Yeah, I haven't seen any
And then-
requests for notice of commencement or
Right.
open permits or anything like that yet.
Mhm.
So,
Yes.
Yeah.
any other general inspection tips that you run into with, with buyers and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think one thing to really focus on, and we see this, not very often, but when it does come up, it's always an issue. Is try to get an inspector, try to get your inspector to use the proper forms to present the 4-point and the wind mitigation. The wind mitigation, 99% of the time comes on the right form.
Gotcha.
Some inspectors, for their own use,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying that the information on it is bad, that's not the point. It's just formatted differently.
Right.
And then when you get it to an underwriter, Citizen has thousands of new underwriters that don't necessarily know what they're looking at. So when you take things out of the regular box and you present it in a different way, something that wouldn't be a problem now becomes a problem.
Gotcha.
So that's probably the biggest step, is just try to get them to stick to the forms.
So the uniform
Then-
forms that are.
Everybody takes it and don't reformat it in any way, don't paint it a different color, don't make it look different. Getting the inspections done, ASAP, the insurance inspections is definitely a must.
Mhm.
Especially on an older home where 9 times out of 10, you're gonna have a little electrical, a
Problem,
little
yeah.
plumbing thing
Mhm.
that needs to be addressed beforehand. And it's probably a good idea to have a new 4-point done than having one revised.
Okay.
So anytime you have a plumbing issue on the original 4-point, if it gets to underwriting, and then you send a new 4-point showing that the problem was addressed,
Sure.
common sense would say they'll go with the one that is clean. The way it really works is now they want to see a paid receipt from the plumber, they want to see all this kind of stuff. And 9 times out of 10, these are so minor.
Yeah.
That
The homeowner.
most people are doing it
Yeah.
themselves, or
Right.
they're getting a handyman to do it.
Sure.
So you end up not having.
Any issues?
Yeah, so I would say hold the bed 4-point until it's good,
Until it's
and
clear.
then release it at that point.
Gotcha.
You touched on something, storm season.
Mhm.
So I know probably most agents know this, but if we are in that cone,
And the box, yeah.
not everything kind of stops, right?
Correct.
Everything stops. We can't close because insurance doesn't write. And then post-storm, sometimes there's an inspection that's required
Correct.
from the lender, and then
And then
on your end,
I'm
you've
sure
got
the
it
insurance-
from the insurance company. So just to keep that in mind here during storm season.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know,
The cone you're talking about is.
being that cone of
Yeah,
uncertainty, that cone that goes every which way and all the little spaghettis going everywhere.
And then, I mean, there's, I guess to the flip side of that is, there are times where coverage is in place, is bound, the storm
Right.
is blowing in tomorrow or 2 days from now, and we need to close tomorrow.
Right,
We get calls saying, hey, can you pull our policy back so we don't have insurance, so we're not obligated to close that day?
right.
And it unfortunately it doesn't work out.
And normally the lender won't close. So
Usually,
you have
yeah.
that.
So, but we do get those calls
Yes,
sometimes,
there,
and it's like,
you never know. It's,
yeah,
you
so.
just never know.
Oh, and so I just want to let you guys know, since
Oh.
Bernardo's here, our next podcast that we're gonna have is actually gonna have Bernardo on it and talking about hurricane prep. So,
That'll be good.
and that's tomorrow. And,
Oh.
okay, sorry, the one on hurricane prep is tomorrow, and then Bernardo will be on one shortly.
Yeah, so we'll get some.
Get some more information
Ideas,
on it.
tips and things to
It's
do.
a good time to do it since, you know,
To get
summertime
ready
and,
for
It's
the
we're
storm.
getting that done, so.
I mean, that's pretty much my spill, I guess. Assumptions, right?
Yeah.
Citizens' assumptions are gonna happen. They're gonna keep happening.
What is that?
Basically, that's when a private insurance carrier gets to go into Citizens' book of business and cherry pick
Okay,
policies they want. There's quite a few companies that are involved in this assumption process. Some of them are brand new, some are companies that opened up 6 months ago.
right,
Unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that we can do depending on the situation, how much the premium is and so on. I guess the biggest thing is, if you get an assumption letter, call your agent, insurance agent,
Mhm.
and ask their opinion. Should I go with it? Should I decline it? Or do I have an option?
okay, so you may have an option to.
You may have an option to decline it, you may have an option to rewrite it. Sometimes it is a good thing, so sometimes it's good to let it.
Yeah,
us some,
Let it be
assume.
assumed.
Premiums usually go up after it gets assumed, so then at least you get 1 year of better
Some
coverage,
break.
and then you can always go back if there is enough split on the premium. So not necessarily bad, but something to be aware of.
Right. No, that's good stuff.
So I think that's probably all I got.
That's it? Okay. You got,
Just got a couple reminders. We have a workshop here in-house on August 1st from 10:30 to 12. You're gonna need to sign up for that. It's gonna be a lot of really good information, some of the new forms. Your class presenters that day will kind of walk you through those new forms and how to fill them out. With all the changes, these are some really good things to be happening. We're gonna be doing workshops twice a month. And then August 12th is our next class at Pro with your expert panel. That was there, we were there last week.
We
Yeah,
sure
we
were.
were there last week. So we'll be there on August 12th. That's from 10 to 12. And you'll need to sign up for that as well. Spaces go quickly, folks.
they sure do.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we're gonna go ahead and open it for some questions. So the first one I see up there, Catherine, listing agreement form that was handed out last week. I have not seen any formal info on when it is put into play regarding paragraph 9. So I believe you're talking about the amendment to the exclusive listing agreement. That is a form that Mike, myself, and our attorneys put together to bring your current listing agreement into compliance come August 17th, if it's still active on the market. So, since we did not receive a new listing agreement from Florida Realtors yet, if you're going on a listing presentation, you're gonna wanna bring a regular listing agreement, the addendum along with you, because that addendum, it mimics paragraph 9 in the listing agreement, except it takes out one sentence where it says the brokerage policy is to cooperate with other brokerages. So that sentence has come out. The legal disclaimer is put in there, so that'll bring you into compliance with that. Now, without diving too much deeper into it, so if your current listing agreement, if the seller is still willing to offer compensation to the buyer, then in the new amendment, just transfer whatever you had in paragraph 9 over to the new paragraph 9, have them sign it, you're good to go. If they said, oh, I've heard about what's going on in the news, and you're not able to talk them into paying a buyer's agent, then if they want to change that, obviously that's gonna affect your paragraph 8 in the listing agreement. So now you're gonna need to do a modification to the listing agreement as well to adjust paragraph 8, as well as do the amendment to bring your listing agreement into compliance. Hopefully that answers that. Byron, you got another one for me? Travis, I don't see it. Oh, okay.
Am I allowed to do audio?
Yeah, Travis, let's go.
So quick question on insurance is kind of two-part. There were, from what I understand, we're supposed to have at least 8 to 10 different insurance companies coming into the state, right?
Okay. They're making it sound like they're coming in and they're companies that weren't here before. When reality is, I think there's maybe 2 or 3 of those that are brand new companies that just started, so they're not really coming in. When you say are coming in, it sounds like they have been in the market and they're solid and they're coming back in. And a lot of times that's not what's happening. There are some of the companies that were not writing in Florida, and now they're starting to, or they're starting to cherry pick out of Citizens book by the Assumption program. But yeah, I guess to answer your question, there are some coming in. They're not necessarily big companies. They're flying back into the state. They're companies that have been here. I wouldn't get too excited about it, I guess. That's
Well, it was a good article headline, right?
it really was. Yeah, it really was.
The other part is I've heard from an inspector that on the 4 points, they're going to start requiring AC ductwork and electric lines to be elevated off of the either crawl space, which makes sense, or even in the attic. Have you heard anything about that?
I have not heard of that.
Okay.
That must
Well,
be
I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I hope so too, but that must be something that the Association of Home Inspectors is talking about. Maybe related to something that they heard from citizens. I have not heard of that. And I think that would be tough to enforce. I mean, it's gonna get a lot of older homes to be not compliant, so I don't know. Hopefully that's just
Just a rumor,
yeah,
not
just
a
a rumor,
rumor.
not a
Another
reality.
clickbait.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
All right. We got anything else? What's that? All right, well, if you don't have any other questions, we appreciate you guys popping in here. As Tina said, our next big panel discussion will be on August 12th at Pro, so make sure you get on the calendar, get that reservation in there. Yes, we will have this class recorded, Larissa, and hold on, what'd you say?
She's talking about August 1st.
The workshop?
Yeah.
The workshop.
No, that's live.
No, that's live, but it will be offered again, we're gonna be doing workshops twice a month. So it might be the same workshop twice that month. If there are people who weren't able to attend the first one, we'll do it a second time. But from now until the end of the year, I do know we're gonna be doing 2 workshops twice a month to help you guys out with all these new changes and forms and everything that's coming through, and it's gonna be partnered with Integrity Title and Charles Rutenberg Realty.
Those workshops are going to be really instrumental in, how the business moves forward and your success as a realtor. So I definitely recommend, popping into those. We're going to have some, great trainers there, basically holding your hand, going over it. Because we're in uncharted territories here, and
Sure.
we're all going in this together. So we're going to figure it out. Everybody just kind of take a deep breath, and August 17th is coming.
Yep.
And we're gonna be fine. We're gonna make it happen. But I can't stress it enough. Get on the trainings, get involved at Stellar, on Stellar's website, look at the trainings there, because I would say those are the fines that you don't wanna get into, is the stuff with Stellar. Well, or at the national
Anybody.
level, anybody really, but the commission and the concession field is really what I think a lot of people need to get a better understanding on. So definitely pop onto Stellar and do that. All right, we're good, Byron? Okay, cool. Well, thank you, Byron, for doing that. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We appreciate it.